When I first opened up Serato Sample, I was really surprised by how easy the interface was. I felt experienced enough that I wanted to see how well I could use it in my track without even looking up a tutorial, and it's very self-explanatory. First, I went into my acapella folder and I pulled up Promise by Sierra. So what I noticed is all the vowels of vocals tend to be in the green zone when it comes to the mid-frequency range, and I ended up getting those. So what I did is I used Ableton's LFO from their Max for Live plugins. I used the map button here. It's called Configure when you're opening up Serato Sample, and you can configure almost every single parameter. So I ended up going through each of these cue points, cue point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I mapped that to the LFO. So now all the pitch is doing this. And because I have auto-tune, you're not going to hear a nasty glide between each note. You're going to hear it snapping to each pitch. And so you can even see that in the program as I play the track. You can notice all of the parameters I chose are moving along with the LFO. The second melodic instance of Serato Sample I use happens to use the acapella from Without You by David Guetta featuring Usher. These are Usher's vocals. And so after, I have my Ableton processing, but the main rhythm and melody comes from finding those same points in Serato Sample using the Find Samples button. So if I go through all of these, the goal for using that second instance was to find sparse little spaces I could add rhythm in to create, just more variation and polyrhythmic stuff going on. I wanted to add another counter melody, something with a different form and feel, so I went ahead and pulled up another instance of Serato Sample and treated it the same way as the first one, where I mapped the key shifts to an LFO, and it sounds like this paired with the first one. And then the third instance, I used a Cuddy Ranks acapella. That's more of a non-melodic vocal, I would say. So I wanted to, instead of give it too much of a spotlight, have it almost act like percussion instead of vocals. And so I pulled up Ableton's arpeggiator. And with that, it will scroll through all the samples. So an arpeggiator will do that for me, and without me having to, play it that fast myself. And so I'm using that LFO to choose the rate of the arpeggiator. So sometimes it'll be slow, and it'll do that randomly. If I play all of this arpeggiated stuff at once, you'll hear this. You can see down here where the arpeggiator is, and you can see where any of those square lines happening is when it changes the rate. But I found that quite fatiguing to the ear, so what I ended up doing is listening out for the sparse rhythms from the first two melodic acapellas, because there's still space in between here. And so I ended up synthesizing a flute, and for the next section of the song, I wanted to see how I could use Serato Sample to play with that sample I made. So up here I have the flute sample. I kept the mode on mono instead of poly, so it's just going to play one note at a time, and I hit this piano button. So now when I play, it's just choosing that one sample and pitching it up and down, so I can play like an instrument. And so with the rest of everything else, it sounds like this. So throughout my years of production, there's a couple key points I keep in mind when I'm messing with samples, and it's trying to find the right samples, treating each sample individually, and then manipulating them in context. And I personally think that Serato Sample has taken all of that and combined it into one slick plugin.